We've got that mommy magic. The Mother Show on Magic 89.9.
For today, we have an adoption advocate. She's also managing director of Rohe Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chrina Cuna-Henson.
Yay!
Hey, she's here.
Hi, everyone.
Delamar is live all the way from Utah.
Hi, Del.
Hi, Chrina. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Same.
Okay, so Chrina, we've had quite the start.
Yes.
A very
interesting
topic.
start.
I know. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself first?
Okay. Hi. I'm Chrina, and I am a mom. I gave birth about a month ago to technically my third child. So I thought I'd share a little bit about my motherhood journey first.
Okay.
So actually, and I guess that leads into like the Rohe Foundation and all that. So my husband John and I, we got married in 2014, and we always wanted to have kids. I was like the type of woman who's like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be a mom.
Yeah.
You know,
like Andy.
It was like, it was like
I
the
smiled
thing.
like, yeah.
And, but you know, somewhere along the way, you get into a lot of different stuff. I started working, getting really into my career. And so motherhood actually didn't come for me till much later than I expected. And so when it did, I was super excited. We found out we were pregnant. It was around Christmas time. We broke the news to our family. We were living in Singapore. And, you know, much to my horror, 6 months later, we lost our baby, our first daughter. We named her Celine. And she was stillborn at 6 months due to an umbilical cord accident.
Wow.
And
okay.
it totally rocked our world. I mean, we were so shaken. Somehow I was like, you know, I feel like a mom. Everything about me feels like a mom, but my arms are empty and I don't have a child to hold. So it was so difficult. And I felt like I was in a really dark place, you know. But in that dark place, I was praying a lot and I was asking God, you know, God, what, you know, this has to have a purpose. I don't know what you're going to do from this, and I don't know what's going to happen out of this kind of hole that I'm in, but you know, you have to get me out. And I remember it was Mother's Day, and
Mother's Day pa.
it was Mother's Day. It was like shortly, it happened. We lost her shortly before Mother's Day, and Mother's Day came around, and I thought, okay, I so dread this day all of a sudden because I don't really know if I'm a mom or not. Like, do I count?
Yeah.
Right, for Mother's Day. And it was around that time where I felt like God kind of whispered to me, and he said, hey, Chrina, you know, you've been saying that you feel like you're a mom with empty arms. But do you realize that there are babies lying in cribs all across our country wishing that a mom would hold them?
Strong.
And they've
Strong.
been abandoned there. And our country is, I mean, we have so many orphanages in the Philippines, and they are filled to the brim, honestly.
Yeah.
And when I kind of realized that, I said, oh my goodness, that's right. Like, I need to jolt myself out of this kind of pity party that I'm in and figure out what this is about. And so I started to visit, and as I was visiting a lot of these orphanages,
Is this for work or just for...
It was just, honestly, it was just for me. It was part of that kind of like season of healing and like trying to like get back on my feet. And I thought, I need to kind of get myself out of this out of this pit that I'm in, right? And so I started doing that, and I started to get really passionate about it. I started to see a lot of also areas where we could do a lot better
As a country.
You know, just the system. I was finding that, why are our orphanages so full? And why does that seem like a good thing? You know, like an orphanage will say, oh yeah, we actually currently have 30 children and we're operating at full capacity. And I'm like, why is that a good thing?
Okay.
Isn't a marker of a good organization or a nonprofit organization like this an orphanage that doesn't have very many because they're all being adopted?
And where you can find houses for them,
Or
homes
we can
for
find
them.
homes for them or families for them. So I was going, oh, wow. And one thing led to the next. And before I knew it, we were adopting our very own daughter that same year. So Chloe came into our lives and completely rocked our world and just changed the way we saw adoption. And we realized that there's so many, I guess, stereotypes about adoption in our country. I call it like the ampon ka lang mentality brought about by the telenovelas and all of that we have. The ampon is always like the I don't know, they either it was kept a secret and it's like this big deal for them, or they feel very ashamed of that, or they're the ones that kind of ruin the family because they bring in something. I don't know. So yeah, it completely changed our perspective, and we just discovered what a beautiful thing adoption is. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me and my family. So that's Chloe is the one we adopted when she was a few days old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So when you met Chloe or held her for the first time, did you know? Like, is that how it was?
Oh, it was surreal, but it wasn't like
Okay.
Because it's kind of like, I guess people feel like there's this magical moment. Like when you give birth, there's this magical moment when you hold a baby in your arms and you're looking at that baby and like, I've carried you for 9 months.
Yeah.
For Chloe, it was a little different. I was carrying her in my arms and I thought, wow, the many miracles that had to happen to get this particular child into my arms. So much had to happen.
Wow.
The courage of another birth mother to say, I just can't, due to whatever, her background was and whatever circumstances she was facing. And then for her to end up with me, I thought, wow, it's just an amazing way that God would build my family and bring a child into my life.
What's even more amazing is that a few months after that,
exactly a year after that, it was like shortly after Chloe's first birthday, I found out I was pregnant. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to have 2 under 2.
Oh.
And who would have thought that 3 years ago you would end up here?
Yeah.
Right?
Beyond me.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought, right?
Crazy.
It's crazy, yeah.
And that's why we're so blessed to have you here.
Yeah.
Is because I think a lot of listeners would really benefit from this story that you have to tell. So, first things first, how have you been? 2 under 2. How is life? You and John?
It's been good. We're getting used to it. My Chloe loves being a big sister, so she's completely smothering her brother, which is really nice. So we love seeing her just kind of like love on her brother. But it's pretty crazy. I mean, let's be real.
It's been a month. It's going to get crazier.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
You're still on maternity leave pa naman.
I am, which is
Right?
great. But I mean, when you do something like, the work of the Rohe Foundation is so close to my heart that it's so hard to say like no to everything. So we have a couple of events and stuff like that we're still going to run. But I mean, I work from home, so it's good.
And you love what you do.
And I love what I do, so it's hardly work.
Ricky, I have a question for Chrina.
Shoot, Del, go.
What was the journey of your husband through the adoption?
What was the journey of
so we heard your story into motherhood. What about her? What about him? How did he feel from the loss of the first baby to you going to orphanages? What was he going through?
Yeah, I don't know. Should I
John
ask
was
him?
John's
He's
actually
here.
here. We should have
husband's
him
here.
on the mic.
He's carrying the
Yeah,
baby.
no, he's
Del.
so
Super
cute.
cute.
You wanna-
Yeah, you
Okay,
can,
come,
you can sit
John.
down.
You can. Okay, let's get a.
Well, okay, hold
So
on.
this is John
We'll get you hooked
Henson.
up, but you can sit here. So Del was asking a little bit about your journey. And into like adopting through the time where we lost Celine, into the time where we decided to
Visit orphanages.
and then eventually said yes to adopting Chloe.
Yeah, okay. Hi, Del. Hi, everybody.
Put on the spot. Go ahead.
Put on the spot. But yes, I'd love to share. Adoption is something that Chrina and I talked about even when we were dating. It was something that we thought was a wonderful idea. But we thought it would be something that we would do maybe when our biological kids are all grown up. And but we always thought it was a beautiful idea. But when we went through that season of just there, now I can hear stuff.
I can hear stuff. Go ahead.
When we went through that season of trying to of I guess getting restored from losing our baby Celine, we started to ask ourselves, does adoption have to be that way? Wait, why can't we adopt now and also have biological at the same time? What's wrong with that? Maybe some families are meant to just be brought up that way.
So wait, sorry, John. So you're saying that even before you and Chrina were already contemplating about adoption when your babies are big na.
Yes, that's right.
Ah, okay.
So you were really thinking about it
Kind of like it was
Yes.
always a good idea.
Yeah.
It was always a good
It
idea.
always
But
looked like something beautiful when you see people adopting. That's so amazing
That's
for the
true.
family, and that's so amazing for the child.
It really is a beautiful thing.
But then we didn't know that it was possible, or even, we didn't even start thinking about having adopted and biological children at the same time.
Yeah.
So that season kind of just made us question that, and like so many people that we talk to, it's usually the mother who brings up the topic first.
Okay.
And it was true for us. And
Uh-huh.
it's true. Chrina was the first to be open to it, and I was like, what? I thought we would have biological children first. So I had to go through, and the thing about being a husband and a man, we want the ideas to come from us.
Talaga?
Or
I didn't know that. Interesting.
big revelation for you this morning. So I had to go through. Okay, yes, thanks for bringing it up, but I had to decide for myself if this is what I wanted, or I didn't want to give in to her and just be like, okay, Chrina, I know you want this. I'll do this for you.
Ah, okay.
I wanted to make sure that this is something I want as well for my
yeah.
family and as a father.
'Cause that's a big step.
Yeah. So she was a few steps ahead of me in terms of this adoption process, and I had to. It took me a few months to really settle in my heart that this is what I wanted for myself as a father and for this family. So that's a little bit about my side of the adoption journey.
Ah.
Wow.
Diba, when you're adopting a child, both parents have to be on the same page. Otherwise, there would be a disconnect, sometimes leading to conflict as the adopted child is growing up. So
That's right, yeah.
this is a question for couples, like our caller, diba? Tama ba, Ricky?
Yeah.
Andy?
Yes.
Like our caller, for example, the mom wants to tell the child already, and if the dad doesn't want to.
Yeah. Because the dad is scared that the daughter might feel, and she'll, yeah.
Yeah, and that was something very important to us as well. So Chrina was not going to move forward until we were both, in complete agreement that this is what we wanted to do. So it took some humility on my end and some time, and it took some patience on Chrina's end.
Yeah.
So until we reached that point where we were both sure, and I was, and we were both in agreement, and then things kind of just happened very quickly from there.
Yeah.
How interesting
Nice.
to listen to the side of the dad. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, kasi I think with a lot of mothers, especially, I've also lost a child, and sometimes, Chrina, when you were saying that you gave birth, but your arms are empty, I could feel it in my heart. Because that's how you're like, you went through the pregnancy, now there's no baby, and I think that leads a lot of women to look for other ways to be a mom if that didn't pan out. So I think that's why women are ahead of the game sometimes.
Yeah,
No?
I always say like something. Being a mom was something that was so deep in my heart, right, and so deep in my soul. It was like I felt like that was part of me, and I didn't realize that there's so many different ways that you could become a mother, and it's just really beautiful to know that God would build my family that way. I would have never expected that He would use technically a really terrible situation that another mother had to go through to bring a child into our family. And that's just really amazing to me.
Wow. What a powerful story.
I know.
Thank you.
I know. So,
And so since you've worked for Rohe Foundation, have you found that there has been an increasing amount of adoption cases in the Philippines?
Well, I don't know if there's been an increasing number of adoptions, but through our advocacy, we run a lot of forums and talks because we find that a lot of people are actually open about it, but it's not something they want to talk openly about. So it's not the kind of thing where they go looking for information on adoption. And if you try to look online, there's really not a lot, and it's kind of hard to make sense of it because a lot of it is government information and really technical. Boring kind of stuff. And families want to know, what's it like? They want real stories, right? If they're thinking about it, or if they've been hoping to have a child, or they've always thought adopting was a nice idea, they don't really know where to go. So we have found that we've helped a lot of families kind of move forward in that journey of getting that information so that they can take that step. There's like this crazy statistic in the U.S. That they did across churches, where they said they did a survey and they found out that something like 40% of people in church in the church world in the U.S. think about adopting, and they think it's a great idea, but 1% actually do it. So I wouldn't be surprised if the gap is similar here, where you have a lot of people and a lot of families who think that adoption is a great idea, but the number that actually do it is so small. Because the process is so intimidating, or it just seems so daunting to kind of have to deal with DSWD and different agencies and the paperwork and everything.
If you were to like set a range, like in terms of time, how long would it take for a family? Would you be able to answer that?
Yeah, well, I'll try my best.
Okay.
It's a variable.
Okay.
I mean, there's no set answer. But they'll tell you typically around 1.5 to 2 years to get all the legal work done and wrapped up. So we're at the tail end, hopefully the tail end of Chloe's paperwork as well. But the amazing thing is, at the end of it, after you go to court and they change your child's name, what happens is, legally you're supposed to have a birth certificate issued in the biological family's name. Yeah. Which we do in Chloe's case. And at the end of it, when we take her to court and we say, petition for her adoption, we want to adopt this child, her previous birth certificate is going to be ripped up, and she's going to be issued a completely new one with the name Henson on it, and I thought, wow, isn't that so powerful? It's literally like she's born into our family. Yeah. And there's no trace of the adoption. Not that we're hiding it from her. We actually try to talk to her about it all the time. But
we'll get there. We'll talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I just thought that's so powerful, right? That, if you do the whole legal process, and I know a lot of times in the Philippines, we try to cut corners, and it's sad because the legal, your child's legal status is so important, and you want them to be legally and fully yours, and never have to deal with any insecurity that, oh no, what if my papers weren't done right? So there's so much importance in actually going through the process. So 1.5 to 2 years, it really depends on the case. It gets harder when they can't trace the biological family of the child. That makes it a little bit harder. So...
But, sorry, Chrina, so it's 1.5 to 2 years for the legal stuff to get figured out, but you had the baby at how old?
It depends. Sometimes, if the baby's papers are in order, the baby can be placed with you within a few months. This is when you go through an agency, or you go through like DSWD or an accredited agency in the Philippines. What happened with us, which isn't always the case, is that the child was surrendered to us. By a birth mother. She was basically a pregnant woman in crisis and said, I really need help. I don't know what to do. I don't want my child to go to an orphanage. Can you help us?
And she went to the Rohe Foundation.
She went to me. The Rohe Foundation was not yet set up.
So she went to you.
Okay. She went to me, yeah.
So how did she know to go to you?
She didn't. Until today, she does not know who I am. So...
What?
Yeah, the biological mom of Chloe doesn't... We've never met, and we've never had any interactions. I know who she is, and I know how to find her if one day, we think about having Chloe meet her biological family. But we don't really know each other. We've never met, and we had a lawyer come in and make sure that everything was done clean, and everybody was kept safe and all that. So that's typically what happens in the Philippines. So that's why people always say, how do I get a newborn? We say, well, it's really hard. You shouldn't be waiting for a baby to just kind of fall on your lap.
Yeah.
We still encourage families to go through the agencies, to go through DSWD, because, that way you take a child who's really been waiting for a long time to find a family. So, Yep.
Grabe, Del.
Yeah, sorry, I have one more question. Sorry, because I'm imagining like someone fell in love with a baby, they want to adopt. Of course, like you said, the legalities still need to be figured out, and so you can't. For most of these cases, you can't take the baby home. Is it possible for the adoptive parents to keep visiting the child so a bond is built as the papers are being figured out?
Technically, no. So there's a law here that talks about the pre-identification of a child. So what they try to do, and the reason why adoption is so difficult in the Philippines is because child trafficking is a very real issue in our country. And there are a lot of child traffickers, and a lot of them do this orphanage shopping thing where they go through orphanages and kind of pick out the cutest babies and try to get them adopted, and they eventually end up in a syndicate and stuff like that. And it's scary. It's real, though. So one of the laws is that you can't pre-identify a child, meaning you can't go into an orphanage and say, I want to adopt this one. That would, not be allowed. And that would actually disqualify you from adopting a child.
I didn't know that, because if I was going to adopt, that's what I would do. I would go to the orphanage and say,
What baby?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
this one.
Right?
Oh, so you can't do
can't.
that.
Which is good.
Yes.
Which I guess is good. So the reason they do that is they say that, if you really have the heart to adopt a child, then you won't really care about what the child looks like, or,
Yes. Yeah.
This makes sense, yes.
So it makes sense, but it is hard for a lot of people. Sometimes they do go to visit an orphanage, they get really attached. And it can be really sad when someone tells them, sorry, you can't.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kasi diba, what movie was that? Was it The Little Princess? Yeah, I was thinking. Also,
Annie.
no, meron din eh. Is it The Little Princess? Where she's also in a house run by this cruel woman,
Yeah, I think
right?
that's it.
Si Miss Minchin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Diba? And that's how they do it, right? People just enter, and then if you're taken, you have a new home.
Yeah, media has
That's
a weird
not-
way of portraying this issue.
Strange. So it's not like that at all.
So there are different circumstance, right? So somebody can just like a mom who's pregnant can just come to you and say, do you want to adopt my baby? That could also be.
I mean, it happens. It's
Yeah.
not something that the government currently has a system around. So the Rohe Foundation runs a program for pregnant women in crisis, where what we do is we're not there to say, give us your baby. We're there to say, let us help you, to equip you so that maybe you could hopefully figure out how to care for your baby. Maybe we could help you find a job. Maybe we could get you access to prenatal care so that you don't find yourself in a desperate situation where you actually eventually end up abandoning your baby on the street or in a public place, or worse, selling your baby, which happens all the time. Babies are being sold down the street from here. And it happens really often. And it's because women are desperate. Pregnant women sometimes are so desperate they don't know what to do.
And I love that there's a foundation that helps specifically pregnant women in crisis.
Yeah.
And I like how that's framed.
Yeah. Because we don't have a system for that yet. Not like in the U.S. If a woman was pregnant and she said, hey, I'm 15 and I can't take this child and I really
It's
want to go back
legal.
to school. I want to give my child for adoption. She could do that.
Yeah.
Here you can't. You have to kind of try first, and then here they expect you to, try to work it out, and then before you even think about giving up your baby.
Yeah.
So we want to help equip those moms who find themselves in a tough situation already,
Yeah.
right? So they're pregnant and in crisis,
Powerful.
But that's so sad also how they can sell their baby. Because that's reality that people don't really talk about also.
It's terrible. We don't share this all the time, but we actually found out that Chloe was at risk for being sold
Wow.
before we said yes to adopting her. And we think about that. We think about her, that all the time because we look at her and we're so in love with this little girl that's now our daughter. But I think, what if I didn't have the courage to say yes? What if I didn't have the courage to say, yes, I'm willing to adopt this child, love her regardless of whatever might happen, whatever her background is, whatever her biological family history is like. If I didn't have the courage to say yes, I think, oh my goodness, where would she be today? Her parents were in such a...
Yeah. You're just imagining.
Yeah, her parents were in such a hard situation that, I mean, it's the reality sometimes in our country where life is just so hard.
Where would she be today if
Where
you
would she
didn't
be
say
today?
yes?
It's crazy.
Hey, you spoke about babies being sold. Just as a point of reference, because I can't imagine you can put a price, but some people have. Do you know how much babies go for?
Sorry, Del, I didn't catch the last part of what she said.
Oh, I was just wondering, because it's almost inconceivable for us to think that babies would be sold because there's no price to it. But apparently some people do put a price on it. How much do babies sell?
How much do babies go for?
Yeah.
Do you know? Do you have a
I do.
figure?
So there was one time, I mean, it broke my heart because I missed this one. There was this one child who was being sold, and we heard about him, and he was being sold for $40,000. Wow. He was a 2-year-old, and I do know that there was a woman who was pregnant, and she was in a really tough spot, and she was trying to sell her baby for $100,000. But that baby was actually rescued. We were actually successfully able to convince this woman not to give up, not to sell her baby. But that we, assured her that we would help her find some source of income and make sure that she gets to eat and her basic needs are met. But we really pleaded with her not to. But there's a wide range. We actually can't. I don't know if that's the low end or the high end of the spectrum. But with poverty in our country, sometimes out of desperation, and I've learned not to judge these women. That particular woman was she was a prostitute, and she probably found herself pregnant and thought, I could make so much more money giving this baby, selling this baby to somebody who, in her mind, might hopefully take care of her child. But really, if you're out to buy a baby, you don't have any good intentions, right? We know that. So if you're willing to pay that kind of a price for a child, your intentions are not good. But these women are framed into thinking that maybe, a good home will be found for this child, and maybe it's good for this baby, and at least I won't have to work and do the kind of work that I do, and I'll get to eat for the next 6 months, So it's tough.
Yeah, and I can imagine you having to interact with women or cases like this on a daily basis for a living. That's pretty tough.
Yeah.
Plus, you have 2 under 2. I mean,
it's hard. Yeah,
it's 10:54. If you just tuned in, we have Chrina-Henson with us. We're talking all about her side of adoption, what she's experienced. If you have any questions, you can call us up 6310899, or you can tweet us. It's at the Mother Show PH. So we had a caller earlier who had a 10-year-old daughter, and she hadn't broke the news yet that her daughter was adopted. And we have another comment.
Yes, this is by Michelle.
Yes, this is by Michelle, and she goes, How soon do you tell somebody, or do you tell a child that she or he is adopted? I know someone who doesn't know that they're adopted, and they're already in their tweens.
Yeah.
So it's that age. So when exactly is the best time to tell a child that they're adopted? What are the ways to work around that? Chrina will answer that after the break. Before we pause for the break, somebody on Facebook asked us, what was the question again?
Was it okay here?
What age?
Jenny says.
How soon?
Well, this one, her question was, only couples are allowed to adopt? ? What if a single woman who has so much love to give a child?
A requirement.
Yeah, what's her percentage? And can she, or would she be able to have a baby?
Okay, wait, sorry. Before that,
Yeah.
how soon daw should you tell your child
Yes.
Well, you, Chrina, because
Okay.
you.
Well, I can't
you have an
answer for
adopted baby.
everyone,
Yeah.
and I don't think there's like a hard cut rule as to when you should tell your child. But for us, we try to make adoption a normal part of our conversation. So Chloe came to us as a baby, and so ever since she could understand, we try to work it into our everyday language. We try not to make it a big announcement where one day she's going to find out that she's adopted and it's
Yeah.
a big deal. We want it to be normal. So we tell her that when I was pregnant, I said, "Oh, Chloe, your baby brother is coming to our family, and mom got pregnant, and she gave birth to this baby, and that's how you joined our family. And do you remember you didn't come to us the same way. You actually came to us through adoption." And we try to work it into everyday language. I guess for us, we just feel like. And what we encourage families to do is try not to keep it a secret, because somehow when you keep a secret from a child, they get the idea that you are hiding something from them. So if you're hiding something from them, there must be something wrong.
Yeah.
Right? That there must be a reason why you didn't tell me all these years. And the longer you wait, it's usually more and more difficult to break the news, right? Because then the secret's been kept longer and longer and longer.
Yeah.
And it gets harder to talk about. So for me, the sooner the better. And I think the parents and the families that we've spoken to who have done that as well, nobody regrets telling their kids early.
Yeah. I was just about to ask that.
Yeah.
If there have been other parents who have adopted and who have spoken out, saying that it's actually great to make it a normal everyday conversation.
Yeah, there's usually more people who come back with regret that they didn't tell their kids sooner.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I wish I told them sooner. Is usually what people would say rather than I told them too early.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So we have been getting so many questions.
Okay, so the question, the next one, this is from Jenny, which I said, are couples allowed to adopt, or can single women adopt as well?
Yeah,
Or
couples
men?
Couples can adopt, single women can adopt, single men can adopt. So that's actually a new kind of revision to the law in the recent years, that singles can adopt. Because there are a lot of, like, I think she said, did Jenny say she's like a single woman and she has a lot of love to give?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
absolutely. The paperwork is exactly the same. The requirements are exactly the same. And singles can adopt.
So you don't have to be a couple
Nope.
to adopt. So see, Ayoha off of Twitter also is asking what the requirements are. Can you just be an ordinary person? Yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
You can adopt.
Yes, you can. The requirements are the same, and they're pretty basic. I mean, they're things like your birth certificate. There are a few forms that you have to fill out. Things like NBI clearance.
This is
and
at
things like that.
DSWD.
Yeah, through,
Yes,
I mean, whatever kind of legal adoption. So, I mean, we're advocating for legal adoption, whether you go through an agency or you go through DSWD. The requirements would be exactly the same.
Okay, because somebody concerned reached out to us and said that there are proper guidelines when adopting.
Yes.
Go ahead. Chrina.
Yeah, we do need to follow all the legal guidelines that DSWD sets in place for adoption. And you would, all adoptions, regardless of how they come to you, pass through DSWD, regardless of how the child comes into your life. So, you first start by, there's like a matching process, and what we're trying to encourage families to do is actually, if you're thinking about it and you are already considering adoption, don't think so hard. Just fill out the forms, fill out the application forms, submit them, and then, hey, you never know, if you get matched to a child, that's when you can kind of think long and hard, is now the right time? Should I be doing this? Because a lot of people feel like the process is so long. But if you do the paperwork, which is honestly not that hard, it's submitting it's like, I don't know, like school admissions. It's like your birth certificate, and if you're married, your marriage certificate. It's not.
You tick a couple of boxes.
It's not huge.
Yeah.
It's probably a really long form that talks about your history and your intentions for adopting. But apart from that, that's it. And if you just get that part done with, everything else kind of runs its course.
Yeah.
And it might take a while, but at least you would have put the paperwork in there.
Yeah.
And Yeah, you could
You're
just
in the
happily
database.
wait.
Yeah.
Yep, happily wait for your baby.
It's
or your child.
11:06. Do you mind if we open up the phone lines, Chrina? 'Cause
Sure.
people have been calling 6310899 Magic. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you. Okay. I'll go straight to the point. We're a gay couple,
Okay.
and we are planning to adopt. Is it much harder, ba?
Is it much harder to adopt? Well,
Adopt, yeah.
well,
For a gay couple.
For a gay couple.
Well, it would really depend. So, a matching committee would be the one to sit down and look at the way it works is that you submit your application to DSWD, and it would be exactly the same way for you. And then a matching committee would take a look at your file along with the file of a child, and that committee would be the one to decide whether or not it's a good match.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so it would really depend on who's sitting on the matching committee
Yeah.
that day, and whether or not they think that you are a good fit as a parent to the child. But technically, that would have to be submitted as an adoption application from a single parent. So
Yes.
you wouldn't be able to apply as a couple.
Oh, okay. So it has to be any one of us?
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because of
Thank
the laws
you.
of the country.
Because of the laws. Of
Thank
the
you so
country.
much for
Thank
your
you.
call.
Thank you so much.
It's 11:08. Hey, that was sort of in line with our question,
Yeah.
right? Requirements.
Okay, I think we have one more
Comments.
question.
Go ahead.
From Jenny, she goes, is it legal if a mother directly gives her child to a person and the person accepted the child and never undergoes like paper documents under DSWD or agencies needed it to be called a legal adoption?
No, no, it is not.
No.
So you need to go through DSWD, and that child needs to be recorded as a child who was adopted. Otherwise, you've tampered with the identity of the child. So that's what they now call simulation of birth, right? And there is a few months ago, there were all these laws that came out about the simulation of birth and trying to help families that have simulated a birth certificate, which basically means that the child is born out of one woman's body, and an adoptive family comes and puts their name on their birth certificate.
Wow.
So that's not
Okay.
legal. So we...
Kawawa the child.
Yeah.
Kawawa the
Future.
child.
Yes.
Yeah, you've tampered with a legal document, and it's difficult. So, sometimes it's been done a lot of times out of ignorance. Sometimes family don't realize that it's not legal. But we do want to discourage that, and we do want families to know that if you're going to adopt, it does need to go through DSWD
There are
all the
policies.
time.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are policies. It's 11:09. We're talking all about adoption this morning. Saying what's up to Big Daddy Jake. Saying hi to
Hey,
Dennis.
Monica.
And he says, please tell Chrina, Mon, and I say hey.
Hi.
Hey, Big D.
Hey.
We miss you, Big D. Go ahead, Del.
I have a question. What if a child asks to see their biological parents at some point? Are there any tips from the foundation or even from the DSWD? I mean, of course, most parents will just wing it, right? But what is the guidelines of DSWD and or the Rohe Foundation when it comes to when the child is asking to meet the biological parents?
Yeah, okay. Great question. We get asked that all the time. And I think that if what we've decided to do with Chloe is that if she one day grows up and decides that she wants to meet the biological family, then we'll let that be her call. If we think that she's mature enough to handle it and we think that she's emotionally ready, then, we need to be secure enough to know that we've parented her and we've loved her.
Yeah.
And that, we're her parents. We're her real
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah.
We've raised her. And that we can't let our own insecurities come in the way. A lot of times these kids who have been adopted just want to know where they come from.
Yeah.
Or they're just curious. So for us, if you do know where to find the biological parents, and you can make that happen. And if you think your child is ready and mature enough, emotionally stable enough to handle that, then why not?
So there are no laws that state that, okay, you can't prevent your child.
It would be case to case. In our case, we actually know who the biological family was, and that was disclosed in the casework of Chloe to us, so we know that. But if you've adopted through an agency which wherein the biological parents have asked to not make their identity known to the child, then that wouldn't be possible. So then that's forever going to be a silent part in your child's history.
Yeah, but kasi diba in the US, like here in the US, that's the thing. That some adopted biological parents, once they've decided that adoption is the way for them, they really don't want any kind of questions in the future. They don't want to be looked up. They don't want to be asked questions.
Yeah.
Then does that change your strategy of telling your child early that they're adopted so as to avoid questions of, oh, but I want to see where I came from or I want to see my family? Does that immediately...
Well, I don't think that a very young child is probably emotionally stable enough to meet the biological family anyway. Although in the US, there are what you call open adoptions. And I'm sure there are some of those here in the Philippines as well. It's just that you hear more about, they speak about it more openly, I guess, in the States. Adoption. But an open adoption is where, you know, the adoptive family and the biological family know each other. They see each other. Sometimes the biological mom even comes to visit, and they kind of include her in the family dynamic, and that happens. But I think you really have to know what's best for your child.
Yeah.
And whether as an adoptive parent, you're the real parent. Yes. I'm Chloe's real mom, and I have to decide what's best for her. Given her age, and if she wants to meet her mom and she's too young and I don't think she's ready, then, you know, I would probably ask her to wait.
This is part of the responsibilities of being an adoptive parent. You have to have these grounds covered. Your convictions.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, like, one of my adopted siblings actually met her mom.
Wow.
She was, I think, either somewhere between 4 to 7 years old, and the mom had decided to talk to my parents for some reason or other, I don't remember, and we were in church. So my dad was preaching because he's a pastor, and then my mom was in the front pew. I was sitting next to my mom. Between us is my sister, and then her biological mom was sitting next to my mom. And I was looking at my sister the whole time, just trying to read what she feels, how she's taking the situation. And I could never really, she was inscrutable. You really couldn't understand what was going on with her. And then years later, sometime in her 20s now, I asked her, how did you feel? And she said, nothing.
Sorry, what did she say?
I asked her, how did you feel when you met your mom? She said, she's not my mom. Mama is my mom. And then she said that, wala lang, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. She wasn't angry, she wasn't sad. It was just, nothing. There really was no emotion according to her. So that's her point.
I see.
But I think that the love that children feel is not necessarily,
Del, we're losing you, Del.
Oh no! Hello?
Go ahead.
I just feel like the love that we give them, that's what they know. And so even if they were born from some other person, if the love that was not there, that the building blocks of love was not put in place, the foundation was not in place, they really couldn't feel anything for that person just yet, because there's nothing, nothing between them.
Yeah.
Diba?
Yeah. It's just a curiosity that's satisfied, I guess.
Sabi nila meron yung concept ng lukso ng dugo. Do you guys know about this?
No.
So a lot of people say this, like, the minute somebody sees another person, sometimes they know that that's their child. It's your blood telling you, kadugo mo yan. And no words need to be uttered. Sometimes it's just the presence. Yung kamukha ko eh. Usually, diba?
Yeah.
So they see that. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of adoption is, in my circle, kasi parang it's gaining ground, I think, because a lot of women are pushing pregnancy and marriage later and later in life. And so sometimes they find themselves not being able to have children because they waited too long. And so the viable option for them would be
Yeah. It's 11:16. 6310899 if you have any questions about adoption. We've gone through a bunch.
Yeah, we've tackled quite a bit of questions from online. But if you guys have any stories also that you want to share, that, you know, if you've adopted and your kids are maybe of age already or they're married already, you know, I wanna hear like the stories like that where you know or if you're adopted, maybe
Actually,
you can call us too.
Kea off of Twitter says, "Good morning. I was listening to your show and I couldn't help but cry because I was adopted too, and I know the stigma. Thank you for tackling it up for everyone. That adopting a child isn't bad at all." So, yeah. So she says, "Good morning." Yeah.
See, that's what I want to hear. If you are adopted.
Yeah. How has it
Call
been?
us. Yeah.
So off air, we were talking about adopting babies, right?
Yeah. You know, I'm still stuck in that like emotional state.
Oh,
when we were off air, Chrina was saying, you know, a lot of parents are, you know, single or, you know, men want to adopt babies, but when they reach a certain age of 4,
they're kind of it's so hard to say it that way, right? But they say that technically Filipinos don't adopt children over the age of 4. It's very uncommon, but we have so many of them.
Yeah.
So a lot of children are aging out of the system. And you know, it's not just adoption, there's foster care too. So foster care is amazing if you want to open your home temporarily to a child who's in need, who's in an orphanage. You could do that.
Foster care.
And that's typically what happens to some of these older kids while they're waiting for their papers to be sorted out. So we have a great foster care system as well. And we
in the Philippines?
Yeah, we can help you get connected. If that's something that you're interested in, we'd be happy to connect you to an organization that can license you as foster parents, so that you could take in children.
How does that work? Can you like explain it?
Sure. So foster care is basically, adoption is permanent, right?
Yeah.
The child is yours forever, takes on your name, and becomes fully a part of your family. Foster care is opening your home temporarily to a child, and being able to spare that child years in an orphanage by having them wait out potentially their adoptive family with you rather than in a children's home.
So you can have that child with you for years.
Yeah, for years. So sometimes years, sometimes months. It's really case to case, depending on what the child needs at that time. If the child needs a home for 6 months while they're waiting to be placed with their adoptive family, or if they need 6 years, sometimes that happens too.
So foster care are the guidelines for foster care the same as if you adopt? Like, can you be any simple ordinary person? Do you have to be a couple? Do you have to be?
You can be any ordinary person as long as you're 14 years older than the child that is going to be placed with you. So the age gap needs to be 14 years.
Okay.
So yeah.
And of course you have to fill out the paperwork.
And you have to fill out the paperwork. So we hear sometimes there are singles who would take in a teen, for example.
Yeah.
As long as you're 14 years older and you're saying, hey, you know what, I have space in my home and we've got an extra bedroom and this kid could stay with us, they're happy to open their home to children like that. And that's powerful.
Yeah,
because
it is.
Everybody needs a family.
Yes.
Is there a specific reason why 14 years is the prescription by the law? Why
I'm
is
not really
it 14?
sure why it's exactly 14 years, but I guess you just need to be significantly older than the child,
more
especially if you're
mature.
taking in a teen.
Yeah, more mature.
More mature, yeah.
More mature.
Yeah.
I have a question. So let's say you adopted your son, your daughter, legally, and then the papers come through, that the original birth certificate is torn apart, and then it's your name and your husband's name on the new birth certificate. My question is, does the DSWD check out the child through the years, or after that's done, they never check on you again?
Nice.
They do provide you with resources and like communities that you could be a part of, so that you could stay connected. So if you felt like you needed support through the years. They would connect you with, adoptive family support groups and things like that. But once the child is in your name and it's fully legal, that's technically a closed case for them. It would be up to you to initiate kind of getting support from DSWD. I mean, if you reached out to them, they would be happy to provide you with support, but they're not going to come and check.
So they don't check up on whether is this family fulfilling the obligations as adoptive family. So there's none of that. Wala na,
no, not after the legal process. All of that happens before. So they go through like a few months where DSWD is constantly checking on how you're doing, how the child's doing, how the child's settling into your home and with your family, and if you have other kids, is the adopted one getting along with the other kids in your family. But once it goes through the legal court process, then that's pretty much done.
Yeah.
How about like foster care?
Foster care is there constantly checking in on you. Yeah. Because the child is not yours.
Yeah.
And you're temporarily caring for that child. But as much as possible, you'd want to make that child feel like part of your family and not feel so different, right? So you actually have legal guardianship of that child while the child is has been placed in your home.
And there are stories, I'm sure there are a lot of stories where you do foster care and later on
you end up adopting.
Yeah, there are. There are tons of stories like that just because if the child was never placed with another family and if it's in the best interest of the child to stay with the family who has fostered them, then sometimes that happens. And that's great.
Yeah. Galing, no?
I know.
So somebody asked off of Facebook, what if the child met his biological parents and decided he wants to live with them? And then the biological parents are now okay to take care of that child. What's going to happen? Legally, this is not possible.
Yeah,
it's not. Yeah.
Legally, it's not possible. Legally, the biological family is no longer his family.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
That's a very teleserye
Yeah,
question.
that's like, I'm like, why would you?
No.
Yeah.
I think it almost never happens, though.
Yeah.
You
Gio,
rarely hear stories of that.
Gio's watching too much TV.
I know. Too much.
No, but for the record, that cannot happen legally.
No.
Sometimes, but maybe where it comes from is, let's say the kid becomes a teenager, and these are the tumultuous years, and let's say for whatever reason, diba, may problema na siya, and then finds out he or she is adopted, thinks, maybe I should go back to my real family. Maybe they will understand me better. So it may sound telenovela-ish, but I think it does happen because, especially the teenage years, and if you reserve that time to break the news that they're adopted at this time, medyo it's going to really mess up their identity, and it might lead them to seek their biological families.
That's when it happens.
Might.
I see it.
I would say, maraming possibilities, diba? I hope that all adoption cases would be as wonderful as we hope.
Yeah.
But I'm so scared because, in as much as we want people to encourage people to adopt, this is a real thing, and you're never assured, even with your own child, that you will get along with them. How many times have we seen mothers and fathers not getting along with their biological kids?
Yeah.
So maybe that's where that listener is coming from.
Yeah. Maybe. It's 11:25. If you have any more questions for Chrina, you can go ahead and tweet them to us. It's at The Mother Show PH. So if anybody wants to know more about this amazing foundation that you work with for Chrina, how can they get in touch?
Sure. You can visit us. You can visit our website, rohefoundation.org. We're also on social media, so Rohe Foundation on Instagram and on Facebook. And on September 28th, we're doing a forum called Family is the Answer. It's an adoption and foster care forum.
Oh,
where we do provide more information about that. And it's really for people, single or couples or families who are thinking about adoption or maybe think it might be a good idea now or somewhere down the road. and just want to be equipped to know what they're in for and how to prepare, then you can join us on September 28th. You can find details of that on our social media accounts. And
where's it going to be?
It'll be held at the Every Nation building in the Fort from 10 to 12 in the morning.
Nice.
Saturday the 28th.
Yeah, so we'll go share that online. And, you know, I was just researching, like, because we were mentioning the celebrities that adopted, but there are a lot of celebrities who were adopted, too.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have, you know Matet de Leon,
Yes.
Lot de Leon, and Ian de Leon.
Yeah.
They're actually adopted by Christopher de Leon and Nora Honor. The
Yeah.
three of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And Senator Grace Poe was actually
Yes.
also adopted by...
Adopted.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Fun facts.
Fun facts. It's nice to
Wow.
know that about people. And that's how normal it is.
Yeah.
That's how normal it is. Hey, Chrina, once again, thank you so much for taking time off of your maternity leave.
Yes.
You know how
you.
sacred that is. Thank you so much for coming and sharing the knowledge with all of us. Our listeners appreciate it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So if anybody wants to reach out to you, do you guys have an Instagram account, a Facebook?
Yep. Instagram account and Facebook account, both Rohei Foundation. It's ROHEI and then Foundation. So you can find us there, connect with us there, and we'd be happy to keep in touch and see how we can help you kickstart a journey in adoption or foster care.
Nice.
Nice.
Hey, if you are watching us on live stream, the link.
Oh, it's there.
Yeah, the URL is right there. So it's 11:27 again. Chrina, thank you so much for joining us today.
We've got that mommy magic. The Mother Show on Magic 89.9.